Hi, this is Alan Pentico, Executive Director of the Southern California Rental Housing Association. This is another one of our series of getting to know our members at the association and who is the rental housing industry. Today I have a new board member to the association with representing a very long-time member of ours, a local company that owns and develops and operates their housing here in San Diego. John, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. My name is John LaRaia, and I'm a vice president with Fenton. And, I've been involved in a lot of different areas of the real estate industry. I came in through the political side of the business on a land use campaign for a for-sale home builder many years ago. Worked for a couple small real estate companies since then and was in the for-sale side. And then I had the opportunity to come over to Fenton, which brought me into the for-rent side of the business. Have worked on the acquisitions, the dispositions, the development, entitlement, and right now my role is focusing on government and community affairs for our company as we own real estate throughout the county and have a presence throughout the county. And so my opportunity is to meet with others that are out there and put a best foot forward.
Yeah, you guys are, I've known HC Fenton and the folks there for about 20 years now, and you guys are sort of a unique housing provider in San Diego. Can you tell us about that? I think you guys are one of the few that you've held the land for a long time in previous business ventures, if you will, or industries, and you guys are developing it and holding the land now. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. The company was founded in 1906, and it's still owned by descendants of the founder of Henry Fenton. And so the company's still 100% owned by the family. And so it's a great company to work for in that we have such deep roots in San Diego and family-owned deep roots. And the company started out in much more of the industrial side of the business, construction, rock and gravel mining, lima bean farming, grazing land, salt manufacturing, many different industrial businesses. And Henry Fenton had acquired about 6,000 acres from the time he founded the company to the time he had passed away. And the company continued to operate those industrial businesses for many, many years. And then eventually got to the point where they made some decisions to divest of some of the industrial businesses and to sell and develop some of the land that Henry Fenton had acquired. And over time, they developed light industrial product, places for people to work and run their small businesses. And then over time, and so did that first, and then over time started to acquire and develop residential apartments. And so the company these days, we are developing more of the residential side of the business. A lot of it's been mixed use, kind of in the urban core downtown and in the urban ring around downtown. And but we still own and operate and manage much of what Henry Fenton had acquired many, many years ago.
Your organization's one of the few, one of the original industries in our region. 100 years ago, it was a very different community, but so one of the founders, if you will, of the region in a lot of ways in terms of industry. And you guys continue to do so, not only providing jobs originally, but now providing jobs and housing for a job, or offices for jobs and housing for other workers and things like that. It's always interesting to talk to the folks there, because all of you seem to know the history of the organization, which I think is awesome. Why did you guys get involved in the Southern California Rental Housing Association? You particularly?
Yeah, so me particularly, it's funny. I have a passion for housing. I really do. And it goes back to the first days that I got into the industry. I didn't come from a real estate family, but I came from but I got into this business on the political side, and it was a land use issue out in Santee, actually, and I went door to door, knocking, talking to neighbors, learning the business from that grassroots level, to hear from people on, why they did support the idea of new housing in their community or why they didn't. And then I understood that there were individuals out there that really didn't want to see change, and they didn't want to accept change. And it became kind of personal to me, to the idea that, look, I think what we do as housing providers, and that was new development, but in this organization, we're housing providers on an ongoing basis. And as housing providers, what we do is very noble, and what we do is very important. And I don't think that's become more acute than in the last, 5 years, Alan, where you've heard even the elected officials say, wait a minute, we may not have been making the best decisions for society when it comes to providing housing, because it's so inexpensive. And that basic idea of some supply and demand has caused things to go out of whack. And that's not because of the housing provider. And so this organization, SCRHA, was introduced to me really by Carol Whaler in the past, and she described this organization as one that also very much advocates for housing and for the housing. And so it was very much a natural fit for me to get involved, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
Yeah, I lobbied for the association for my first 8 years with it, and I've been the executive for the last 9 years. And Carol was one of the first people I met, and amazing person, amazing background, always a huge housing advocate, and somebody I learned a lot from. And that's one of the things that drew me to the association, is that we recognize, and we have this conversation a lot with elected officials right now, and regional planners and things like that, that we need every type of housing. We need housing on every level and in every scale and scope and price points. For 30, 40 years, we've been behind in housing, and it's only escalated. And it's one of those things that it's important to have. You have to have it for the whole system to work. In what we really strive, and I really kind of honed in on this in the last couple of years, is that, making sure housing providers understand that, and just like HE Fenton already does, because you guys have been around for a year, that a housing provider is part of the community. What you provide is part of the community fabric. It's a symbiotic community and relationship. Without housing, people can't, they're not going to be able to work in our jobs that we have. They're not going to raise their families and things like that. And we can't do it without them either. So really stressing to the industry that you're part of the fabric, you're part of the neighborhood, and it all goes together. It's an important aspect. I think a lot of people just sort of, they just do housing. Well, housing is such a personal thing, that it's important to have that perspective. What are some of the sort of personal touches that I know? I've been on some of the HE Fenton properties, and they're amazing. What are some of the personal touches that you guys do for your residents?
Yeah, I love the amenities we provide, and we have a unique property in Little Italy, downtown Vici and Amo, where we vacated a street and created this beautiful public space there. We've been ahead on technology on properties like Solterra with our solar power there, and Aquaterra, where we've started on the water efficiency side, but have also now embraced the solar technology there as well. The pool amenities, the landscaping, all those things are wonderful. But I have to say, Alan, I think what's unique to HE Fenton, and something that helps me be very confident to go out into the community and represent who we are, is that our people, and I know it's cliche, and you'll hear it from others, but I really think the culture that's been created from this family-owned company that was established in early 1900s, 1906, and that family culture of wanting to make San Diego a better place, and not just unlock a door, let somebody move in and then, say bye when they're on their way out at the end of their lease. That is not what we do, and that's not what our people do. And that is carried on from the family to our CEO, Mike Neal, and is really pervades the company all the way down in a way that, I'm just proud to be part of it. And I think that's how, what we provide is special, maybe compared to others.
Yeah, I came to the association and I always thought, oh, I'm just going to do housing. In our industry, we cross over so many things: environmentalism, conservation, energy, traffic, everything kind of crosses over. And my dad worked for a water district, so I've always been very water conscious, if you will. And I know that you guys did an amazing job on a property down in Mission Valley, and it's still to me one of the best models of xeriscaping efficiency and things like that. And you mentioned your project in Little Italy with the public square in it, and that's something I think that our community as a whole needs more of. The public squares are amazing, particularly. I mean, people are finding out during this pandemic that what the public squares really mean, the ability to be outside but still spread out and have that common area where people can interact, is so important. And you guys are really taking those pieces and really accelerating what they look like in our industry. And it's great to see, because we're starting to see it trickle out to others, not just new development, but people going back and looking at other developments and reconsidering those the structures and how you use them in that regard. What are the issues that are weighing on your mind in terms of the future of housing for our region?
Yeah, I mean, for everybody in our industry right now, the eviction moratorium has upended the idea that the housing provider, can continue to operate, and there's certainty around payment. And I don't want to discredit. In fact, I embrace what our company did early on in COVID in terms of working with our tenants and opening up dialogue and, doing workout plans and payment plans. And again, that culture pervades, and we care about those that choose to live with us. But it's really unique right now for many, many people, and from small owners and housing providers to large. And so that's a big challenge. And then with that, there's many potential laws on the books or other laws on the books that have continued to in a way, either in a lot of ways control pricing. And I go back to what I said before in terms of this is housing pricing is really a supply and demand issue.
Absolutely.
And pricing doesn't just mean, again, we unlock the door and lock the door. Pricing includes all of the mental health services our employees provide. It includes all of the amenities. It provides all of the utilities, the master utilities. It provides the technology we provide. It provides the maintenance that our maintenance folks provide. It is a full service housing provider. And if you owned your own single family home, you'd have to go out and pay for all of that, but you get that included in what you're paying in rent. And so when there's this kind of squeeze on that opportunity to, receive payment for the services, it makes it difficult and uncertain in a time when all we want to do is provide housing. And all the electeds and others, they all ask us to go out and provide housing. Well, that's what we love to do. We wake up every day wanting to do that. And so that's where probably the uncertainty is right now.
Yeah, I think that, certainty is one of those key factors for our industry. For any industry, you need to know and be able to plan for the future so you can continue to supply the product, if you will. And I think that that's one of those struggles that we've had. Is it's like drinking through a fire hose with regulation right now. The county of San Diego, mind you, we represent San Diego, Imperial, and half of Riverside. In San Diego alone, there's 18 cities in the county itself, so it's 19 jurisdictions plus the state, plus the federal, and every one of them has the opportunity to add their own layer to this. So it's a struggle to keep up on top of the regulations if you're an owner or an operator and know what those things are. So that predictability, that stability, that be able to predict and rely on a steady understanding of things is very, very challenging right now. And on top of it, what we're worried at the association is the outcome after COVID. For example, we were short of housing coming into it, and the regulation we're starting to see it push owners out of the industry. So if someone had 5 units, they may sell 2 units off for the cash to operate the other 2 because the rental income's not coming in and those sort of things. So we're very cautious of the fact that we may end up exiting this pandemic with fewer housing than what we had coming into it, because the operators, the owners and managers are basically like the regulations just becoming too overwhelming, and the predictability is gone, and the income, I can't support it. That's now eating into my retirement or my income that I need to survive here in our region. And so there's a lot of factors that go along with that we're very cautious of in the industry. I go back to the conversation when I said earlier that we really need housing in all levels, and I think the conversation I remember having a conversation with a representative a couple of years ago, and I introduced the concept. I said, we even need extended living, it's extended family homes. And they're like, what is an extended family homes? And in most other countries and communities or cultures around the world outside of ours, there's extended families living together. You have parents and aunts and uncles that live together, or kids and grandkids living with grandparents. They're all part of the support system, and we don't build housing for that. There's types of housing, back a century ago, all the single family or single room occupancies to house workers in the industries were downtown. Well, the industries have moved around, but we haven't moved the single room occupancies around with them. That concept of, hey, this is where the job centers are, we should provide all levels of housing or all for in that job center, that hasn't really moved with it. And I still think there's opportunities for housing types that we haven't even thought of, that other countries have considered, or that stuff that's just not even there yet. I mean, 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, no one would have thought about using a trucking container for housing, but it's actually quite popular in most parts of the world now for all types of purposes and things. So I think there's an opportunity for us to find new ways of providing the housing and looking for these endeavors to fulfill the needs of our community. And I just go back to the point that, we are part of the community. It's a symbiotic relationship. You have to have housing, you have to have residents. And I told an elected official the other day, I said, one of the things you don't realize is that really, as an owner operator, all you're looking for is, I need a resident can pay the rent. I need them to take care of the property while it's in their possession. I need them to be courteous of their neighbors. And that's it. Those are the 3 criteria.
Yeah.
And it's really not deeper than that. I don't know what else to say, that those are the basic things. And when we run into the issues, if you can't meet one of those 3 obligations, we have to have the ability to shift. And that brings me to the eviction discussion and what I've really been talking about lately. And I think you and I have had a little bit of discussion with some electeds about this as well, is that the eviction process is something that's been handed to us by the legislature. And as I tell our members, and there are not laws for tenants or residents, and there's not laws for property owners or managers. There's laws, and that's it. They apply to both sides. And you have to understand how they apply to both sides. There's just one set of laws on these things. Residents and land and owners, managers have been provided eviction laws. They are what they are. Residents don't like them. I wouldn't say our industry really likes them either. We try to avoid evictions because it is extremely expensive on the industry, and it ties up housing that others could be using for months now, not just weeks, months. It takes months to evict a bad actor, if you will. And I think you had some comments of that would you like to share them?
Yeah, no, this is one of those, we get in a lot of discussions about this, Alan, we do, you and I do, and then we get into discussions with other folks, elected officials and others. And, the point we love to make, and it's because it's true, is that we wake up every day as housing providers wanting to fill another one of our units. Our goal, our objective, our opportunities, how do I get another person into a housing unit? And when it was the shelter in place environment at the beginning of COVID, we said, how do we get people in every single one of our units. We're going to wake up, and the goal for our team was to get those units housed. That was it. Get them housed. And no one wakes up, not one person wakes up and goes, man, how can I evict someone today? Let me think of a way to go through a court process that's expensive, that is confusing for everybody, that's emotional. Nobody wants to go through that. And no, there's not one housing provider that wakes up thinking about, how do I evict someone today? Sometimes it happens. By the way, very rarely if you look at the data, but sometimes it happens. But no one wants to do that, and no one wakes up with the goal of wanting to do that. Especially our company. But I don't believe anybody wakes up wanting to do it. So I think that's important for everybody to remember as these laws are being written for both sides, that we wake up every day wanting to house another person or a family or a couple, or that's what we want to do. And that's what we do. That's our business. We love to do that.
Yeah, I've never met an owner or a manager that said, yeah, I like my units to be empty.
Nope.
They're always trying to figure out a new way to market their unit and to provide a benefit or service to the clients, to the residents, and things like that. I've never in my life heard them say that. And like you, I've never heard them say, who can I evict today? That's like asking, I'd like to have a root canal today. I think that'd be a fun thing. I don't know anybody who thinks that way. Yeah. And I think that's important to note that as we go forward. One of the questions I like to ask in these is, because our industry is very shy about this, and I understand why and all that. Do you have a story about a resident that you guys were able to do something very positive for that just, where you guys obviously not obligated to do it by any means, but you found it absolutely worthwhile? I hear this all the time. I started asking this question because I do judging for awards for other associations around the country, and I got to ask these questions with those property managers around, and the things that they did. I had one lady I met in Seattle that she had a low-income property and a very low-income property, and she knew that these folks wouldn't be able to have Thanksgiving, so she went around to grocery stores and things and gathered up all the items and did a Thanksgiving dinner for a 10-unit property, all on her own, just because she thought it was the cool thing to do. And that just blew me away. I mean, amazing. Do you have something like that in your experience you'd like to share?
Yeah, we first of all, I hear stories from our folks every day. Every day, there's something that they're doing that is above and beyond their job description, right? And it's because there's a human connection, and they care about who they're housing. A couple just quick ones. One is, we have welfare checks where you have family members that may have an elderly person that might be living with us. And I know a particular one, we had a resident that lived with us for many, many years, and she was a little older, and they tried to reach out to her. Her family was trying to reach out to her to connect with her during COVID, and this is when people were not physically going to see each other. And they were calling and eventually called our community. And this is one of those things where our leasing folks went, and community directors went and knocked on the door, did the welfare check, found that the phone was malfunctioning, and therefore they couldn't get a hold of this person. And our folks called the family back and said, she's great, all good, no problems. And during COVID, that meant a lot, right? I know it sounds small and not a big deal, but for people to understand that their family member who they can't get a hold of is safe and sound in this environment was really important. There's another quick one. There was a rent check that had been written for an adjacent property. It wasn't our property, but somehow it landed in our parking lot, I believe. And one of our maintenance folks saw it, picked it up, and did the research to figure out this check was not for our property. It was for an adjacent property, and our maintenance team went and delivered the other residents payments, somebody that didn't live with us, because it was the right thing to do. And you know, to me, that's to take time out of your day. You're not paid to pay somebody else's rent, but you know, our people care about the people that live on site and the people around them. And you know, those are kind of two quick ones, but I think it shows character, and again, some of that culture that pervades throughout everybody at the company.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, there's so many stories like this, and we actually tried doing an awards around it through our awards program a couple of years ago, and the industry is just so bashful to talk about those things. And I'm not sure if it's it's something they're humble about and they just do, or it's just something that's so routine for them in so many ways they don't even think about it anymore. And it's one of those warm fuzzy sort of things that I always try to, you know, make sure we brag about, because it is important, and it just shows how we are part of the fabric of the community and we're interacting with them. Our time's about up here. Is there anything else you'd like to add or comment about?
You know, Alan, I'm newer to this organization, but you know, I believe in the mission, and I'm glad we're steering the ship in the right direction. I'm happy to help wherever I can, as you know, and you know, so thanks for the opportunity.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it very much. Again, this is John LaRaia from HG Fenton Company and Alan Pentico, the Southern California Rental Housing Association. And this has been another one of our chances to get to know the rental housing industry. If you want to know more about our organization, you can go to www.socalrha.org, our website, and you can pick up more information there. Also, visit our YouTube channel, SoCalRHA, as well, and check out some of our other videos. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.